Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Mr. Abdullah Amin, and today, inshallah, we're going to explain Unit 2, Lesson 6, Part 1, which is DNA structure and function. Okay. Today, inshallah, in this lesson, we are going to know what is DNA and how was DNA discovered and what does DNA look like. How was DNA discovered and what does DNA look like? Before we start, guys, we know that every living thing in this world is made up of cell, even as prokaryotic or eukaryotic. We have two different types of cells, as you know, but actually all organisms in this world, maybe prokaryotes or eukaryotes, they made up of cells, and each cell that's containing the DNA, which is the genetic material for the cell. So what is DNA, guys? DNA is the genetic material needed for growth and other activity. DNA. So it's needed for growth and other activities for the organisms. DNA stands for what, guys? DNA, D stands for deoxyribo, and N stands for nucleic, and A stands for acid. So we can say deoxyribonucleic acid. Deoxyribonucleic acid. And the scientists consider the DNA as a containing code. So what is code? Code is a set of rules and symbols used to carry certain information. So if the organism need to make certain function, need to take the code from the DNA. Okay? What is the story of the DNA? How DNA discovered? Actually, guys, DNA does not discover, or the discovery of the DNA does not happen overnight. Actually, it takes a lot of years to discover the DNA by the shape that we know now. So not just only one scientist, no, we have many scientists from all over the world contributed to our understanding of DNA. Okay, some of them discovered the chemicals, and other describe how these chemicals can fit together. Other described how or they made a model about the three-dimensional structure of the DNA. Okay. Starting from 1869, and the scientists start to discover what is DNA. We have some scientists discover the substance, okay, that we know now it's DNA. Other scientists discovered how or what DNA is made up of. So they discovered that it's made up of sugar, phosphate groups, and 4 nitrogen containing bases. So this is a base of the DNA. We have S stand for sugar and P stand for phosphate group, and base here, guys, we have nitrogen containing base. We have actually 4 types of nitrogen containing base. We have A, T, C, G. Okay, A stand for adenine, and we have T stand for thymine, and G stand for guanine, and finally C stand for cytosine. Okay, so if you have a question in this model, what do P, S, and A bases represent? So the answer would be what? P stand for phosphate, yes. S stand for sugar, and A stand for the adenine base. Other scientists, guys, like this scientist, which is called Rosalind Franklin, and the other scientist, Maurice Wilkins, they both took X-ray image for the DNA molecule. Okay, we have also other scientists like these two scientists, James Watson and Francis Crick. They both proposed the 3-dimensional shape of the DNA. And we have another scientist, which is important to know, which is called Erwin Chargaff. This scientist, guys, discovered that the amount of adenine equal to the amount of thymine, and the amount of guanine equal to the amount of cytosine. And he called this rule, it is Chargaff's rule. Chargaff's rules. Okay. Okay, so the most important scientists that we have to mention: James Watson, Rosalind Franklin, and Erwin Chargaff. James Watson, what do they do, guys? James Watson and Francis Crick, they both make the 3-dimensional shape. Rosalind Franklin and Maurice Wilkins, they both took X-rays about the DNA. Erwin Chargaff, he said the rule, which is adenine equal to the amount of adenine equal to the amount of thymine, and the amount of cytosine equal to the amount of guanine. Okay, so What does DNA look like? DNA, guys, look like a twisted ladder. Okay, so the structure of the DNA look like a twisted ladder. We call this twisted ladder which as a double helix. Double helix. Okay, so the DNA is a structure called a double helix, and we are going to explain this double helix is made up of what. Okay, guys, so as we can see in this picture, guys, this twisted ladder or double helix, guys, we have like the backbone of this double helix, which is made up of phosphate and sugar, as we can see, guys, phosphate, sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate, sugar, and so on. And these bases, guys, which is like the stairs, like the rungs of the stairs, okay, which is made up of nitrogen base. We have nitrogen base A attached to T and nitrogen base C attached to G and so on. So we have, this is called base pair, which one complementary to the other. Okay, so here, guys, the two sides of the ladder is made up of sugar and phosphate, as we can see, and the rungs of the ladder are made up of pair of bases. So pair of bases, not just only one base. No, they are pair of bases. Okay, so guys, we have a base, sugar, and phosphate group make up the building block of DNA. So anything, guys, so if you are talking about anything in front of you, look at your room, you can find the room is made up of like 4 walls at least. So each wall is made up of building block, which is a brick. Okay, and so on, guys. The DNA is made up of building block, which is nucleotide. So what is nucleotide? As you can see, guys, we have the nucleotide is made up of 3 things, made up of phosphate, sugar, and nitrogen base. And because we have 4 different types of nitrogen bases, so we have different types of nucleotides. Okay, so this nucleotide is which is containing adenine, nucleotide which is containing thymine. As you can see, they can fit to each other, so this shape can fit exactly to the shape. And the other nucleotide, which is guanine, can fit to this nucleotide, which is cytosine. Okay, so we can say the building block of the DNA is called, yes, nucleotides. How many nucleotides we have? 4. Yes, according to what? According to the nitrogen base attached to them. Okay, so and if you remember, guys, this one which is called Chargaff or Erwin Chargaff, he said that amount of adenine equal to the amount of thymine and cytosine equal to the guanine. So the adenine always pair with thymine, A with T, and cytosine always pair with guanine, C with G. Okay, these orders, guys, the nucleotide beside each other make like order. This order make a code, guys. This order of nucleotides in the DNA is a code that carries the information needed for make certain activity. From the previous lesson, guys, we know that genes are segment of DNA that's related to certain traits. So they have code, and this code, it can be read by a certain structure inside the cell that which is called ribosome that need to make certain protein. Okay, so the code in the nucleotide order has information about which protein the cell should build. This protein, the presence of this protein or the absence of this protein, it's determine which trait that you have. Okay, so all of your traits is stored in the DNA, and each part of the DNA is called gene, and each gene has set of a structure or has order or have a code to make certain kind of protein that determine your trait. Okay, and this is part 1, and see you next time.